This is a recording of going through the dative case and all of the various instances or uses that we experience in Latin 1 for a word to be in the dative case. And the dative case is what is featured in chapter 22. We've already encountered the dative case, so a lot of this should probably just be review. In English, whenever you encounter a word in the dative case in Latin, English, you're going to use the words to or for to translate. And so here you can see I've given you all of the various different dative endings for the first, second, and third. So if you were to see puelli and establish that it was dative and not necessarily a genitive or a nominative plural, you would translate it to or for the girl or whatever the word would have been to which you would see the dative ending. Now remember that very often all of these forms in the plural and some of these forms in the singular are identical, actually just those two, to the ablative form. And so when you are trying to determine as to whether the word is in the dative case or the ablative case, very often you will look for what is termed a ditransitive verb. Remember that transitive verbs are those verbs that can have a direct object. Intransitive verbs are verbs that cannot have a direct object, and ditransitive verbs are the verbs that can both have a direct object and an indirect object, which remember is the receiver of the direct object. So here I've listed 4 uses of the dative case. There are more of them, but these are the basic 4 that we need: indirect object, reference, possession, and special verbs. So let's walk through each of them. First is the indirect object. To have an indirect object, you're going to most likely need that ditransitive verb. Now, of course, we have the silly little saying, give, show, speak, or tell, gotta ring the dative bell. And that is because the verbs give, show, speak, and tell all would allow to have a direct object, give, the accusative, direct object, to or for the dative, indirect object. And so you can see here in each of these examples. Nuntius epistolam patri marci tradet. Note here I have patri in the dative case, third declension, and then right after it I have marci, also with a long I ending, but that is a second declension word, and so therefore its dative would have been marco. Here it's genitive showing possession. The messenger hands over the letter to the father of Marcus, or you can see to Marcus's apostrophe s father. In the highlighted yellow, I have both dative and dative translation. Number 2 of the examples of indirect object, puer puellae flores pulchras datit. The boy gave. Datit is from the verb do dare dedidatus, probably the most popular of all ditransitive verbs. And here, since it is made up of a perfect stem, do dare deity, coming from the third principal part, and a perfect ending, e isti it, we give it the translation gave, did give, has given. So the boy gave pretty flowers. Note the flowers here are accusative direct object, but the pulchros, which modifies it, which means pretty, it's where we get the word pulchritude, because it is an as ending, it is letting us know that flores is actually a feminine word. Otherwise, we would not have known for flores, because as third declensions, masculine and feminine words have the same endings. And here then puellae is in the dative case. I know that it is not nominative plural because boy is my certain nominative. I then know it's probably not going to be genitive here because it's functioning instead as the dative with the ditransitive verb receiving the direct object flowers. So the boy gave the pretty flowers to the girl. Now in English, we can also say in the second sentence that I have here, the boy gave the girl pretty flowers. Here in the translation, it doesn't have to or for that dative girl, but it's because of the word order tells us that the girl is in the receiver of the flowers. The third example, Titus, demonstrabit, from demonstro, demonstrare. It's the verb that means to show, a ditransitive. And so here I see the bi on it. It tells me it's future. Titus will show many buildings. Now please note here that as the direct object, edificia multa, that if it ends with an A as a direct object, accusative, it's probably neuter plural, and that's exactly what we have here. So it's many buildings, and then to the boys. Again, you can switch it around with English word order with saying Titus will show the boys many buildings. Now, he's not going to show the boys. He's not showing off the boys. He's showing off the buildings. And, of course, the boys are the ones who are receiving the buildings that are being shown off by Titus. And then finally, your fourth example, Pater wilico dawo mandata multa dicebat, from, of course, the verb dico, dicere, dixi, dictus. Do not confuse it with duco, to lead, but this is the verb to speak or say or tell. And so you have, again, a ditransitive. The dad was telling, or you could say was speaking, or was saying, mandata multa. Same example as what we have here with aedificia multa. It's going to be neuter plural. And so many orders to the overseer Dawes. Both of those obviously in the dative case as they are receiving the orders. And then, of course, over here, you could also say Dawes told the overseer Dawes, or I should say dad told the overseer Dawes many orders. That is the indirect object. Dative case as the receiver of the direct object. Now we move on to dative of reference. Dative of reference is when you obviously put something in the dative case and it is telling you to whom or to what, again, the translation to or for, something refers. So here it is with the impersonal verb necesse est. It is necessary to lead the family to the city. Well, we all know it's necessary for whom. It's not necessary for Davus. It's not necessary for Geta. But here, the dative case patri, third declension, tells you for the dad. And thus, it's the dative of reference for him. It is the necessary thing. Now, just a quick note, even though this is not the point of the study guide, necesse is actually a third declension word that if I were to look at it into the dictionary would be necessis, comma, and I wish I could make that a squiggle dash, necesse. It is a third declension adjective of double termination. Nominative for the masculine and feminine is necessis. So if I were to say something like food is necessary, it would be kibus necessis est. That's because we all know that all linking verbs are equal sign, and if food is a masculine, then we need the masculine necessis. But here, because what we have is the infinitive functioning as the subject, and then you have the equal sign, then you use the neuter necesse, thus telling us that all infinitives are neuter in their gender. Infinitives are not just verbs that do not have a subject, it is actually a noun. And so when you can say it is necessary for the dad to lead the family to the city, you could say the act of leading the family to the city is necessary for the dad. Now, down here we have another impersonal verb, licet. And as a matter of fact, when you see licet in the dictionary, it's so impersonal, and the reason why we call it that is impersonal means without a person as the subject. Not an I, not a you, not a we, not a y'all, not even a they, not even a he or a she, but an it. And that it is going to be an action, and again, we see the infinitive. So it's translated, obviously, with saying it is permitted, and there you see it, it is permitted, but what the it actually is the act of the infinitive acipere. So it is permitted to receive, to accept the pretty flowers. And then the question would be, for whom it is permitted for the girl. And so, again, as an impersonal verb, which means why it's going to end with a T, if you actually look this verb up in the dictionary, it would not have an O in the first principal part, but a T. You always see it in the third singular impersonal because the subject is the action it. So the act of receiving pretty flowers is permitted, is allowed for the girl. The final examples of the reference would be Titus optimus patruus est. Optimus means best or favorite. Patruus means uncle. It's one of two words for uncle. This word, however, tells me it is the brother of the father. So do not confuse patruus with pater. So Titus is the favorite uncle for the boys. For the girls, they might have a different uncle or for another group, but for referencing the boys, Titus is the best uncle or the favorite uncle. Then finally, we have the example that I often use in classes with musical acts, and I've chosen to go ahead with Taylor Keller, which we all know is Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is the pessima contrix. Pessima means worst. Like if you're pessimistic, you expect the worst. Contrix, of course, means singer. So she is the worst singer for the teacher. Don't much care for, perhaps. Said, but dative case, to or for many students. Que, of course, means and. It is an enclitic because it attaches to another word. So, but to or for many students and to his daughters, then she is the optimus contrix, the best teacher. And so, in that way, obviously, you have the dative of reference to the teacher referencing she's the worst, but to many students and to the daughters. And I missed an opportunity here, obviously, in that what I should have done, I think, is that I should have reordered it to where, and I think I'll go ahead and do it right now so that we can make a chiasmus. Remember that a chiasmus is the pattern of A, B, B, A, and that will show contrast. And so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that, and I'm going to put it right here. And so as you can see, we can call that A, to whom. Then we call that B, what she is, the worst singer. And then we'll go ahead and follow that up with B again, what she is, the best singer, and to whom many students and daughters. And so now I have a chiasmus. A, B, B, and then A again. And if I really wanted to make this a cool chiasmus, I'm going to go ahead and replace the est and make it to where it follows that same pattern. So you see it goes A, even B, even C, and then C, and then the B, and then the A again for a nice chiasmus. All right, moving on. So let me get rid of that. The dative can also show possession. So we've seen so far the genitive showing possession, but now we see that the dative can do so as well. And when it does, it is very often used with the verb to be, or esse, and it can also then be rendered idiomatically. So it says here in the example, magistro duae filiae sunt. So you would say literally, there are 2 daughters for the teacher, and thus it shows the possession that's what the teacher possesses. But idiomatically, you could say the teacher has 2 daughters. Now, here again, I'm going to go ahead and fix the highlighting to make it match all of the others. And so it asks the students. The students often ask, go ahead and get subject-verb agreement, what is the name for you? We would say idiomatically again, which I do not prefer, but is a possibility. What is your name? However, be clear about this. The word for your as the possessive adjective would be tuum. So you could either say quid tuum nomen est, leaving out the tibi, or leaving out the tuum, which I've done here, showing the dative of possession. What is the name for you? I respond, nomen mihi est. For me, the name is magister. So for me, the name is teacher. Again, you could say the name or my name, but again, the word for my would be meum. And the reason I use tuum for nomen and meum is because they are both neuter. So not meus, masculine, not mea, feminine, but meum, neuter. But again, instead of using the adjective my or your, we went with the dative of possession for you and for me. So dative can show possession just like genitive can as well. Special verbs. Here we see that the special verbs are those verbs that require an object to be in the dative case instead of normally like the accusative. So here we can see a normal sentence. It says, Matrim amat, he loves his mom. And matrim is your normal object in the accusative case. I say accusative, you say direct object. But if you had a special verb, like let's take, for example, credo, credere, credidi, creditus, to believe or trust, which is one of these groups of verbs. Now remember, I gave to you a list of principal parts, and they broke them into groups of 10 each of the rather common verbs that we encounter in Latin 1. And the fourth group are the ones that are going to require dative objects. They are the special verbs. And so you have it here that when you have the sentence, like we had matremamat, now we have matri credit. In that, you have the object of credit, he trusts, he believes, his mom in the dative case. So the only kind of mom he can love is an accusative mom because it's normal verb amat. But if you have a special verb, the only kind of mom he can trust is obviously going to be a dative mom. And so these verbs all require its object. Now, if you think about it, there's a reason why. That's because built within the verb itself is kind of a ditransitive quality, in that when you say he believes, it's literally he gives belief to. So built within the verb credo is both the verb action transitively, the direct object, which in this instance he gives belief, and then the object is then the dative word from that special verb. And so if you look at it for the ones that aren't double starred, you can see them here. Let me go ahead and try to put it back up one. There we are. So they're all on the same page. In that, fawe o fawere, favor or give favor to a dative object. Noki o nokere, harm or give harm. Pare o parere, obey or give obedience. And so forth and so on. And so in this instance, we see that built within them, that's why they are special verbs and require an object. Now, another thing too is that remember that usually datives are translated to or for, but when the dative is functioning as the object of a special verb, you don't have to say to or for because it's the object. And so it's not he trusts for his mom or he trusts to his mom, it's rather he just trusts his mom. Now, note that there were 3 verbs here that all got double asterisks. That is because there are a certain class of verbs who originally, and we'll use this as an example, were the verb, as you can see it, curro, curre, to run. But when you compound it, by that I mean you put a prefix on the front of it and change its fundamental meaning, and it was intransitive, and that it did not take direct objects. Now it will take a object, not a direct object, it will take an object in the dative case because you've changed the fundamental meaning. Here, instead of run, it means to meet or to run into. Same thing with propinquo. Propinquo by itself means to be near. But then when you put on it the prefix ad, odd, which of course means to or towards, here it has been assimilated. Remember, assimilation is the process by which a sound becomes more similar to the next consonantal sound. So instead of ad propinquo, it turns into apropinquo. And when you are near towards something, that means you approach it. And so therefore you can only approach dative things. So again, you have some verbs by their very nature, they take dative objects. But there are other verbs that have been compounded, like example third, prosum, sumese is to be for someone is to benefit or support them. And so therefore, when you have this verb, prosum proesse, profui, profuturus, it is going to take a dative object. The only thing that you can support or benefit is a dative thing. The only kind of person you can meet is a dative person, and the only kind of thing or person you can approach is a dative. Same thing with all of these others that you have in group 4. So let's take a look at the examples that I've given to you here. Postquam caponum discederunt, Cornelii mox urbi apopinquabant. After they departed, they left. This is not the verb descendo, but rather discado. Cado, cadere means to go. The dis part is to go away. If I had a ray on the front of it, it would of course be go back, to recede, but that's not what I have. So it's after they departed the inn, the Cornelii, the Cornelians, soon were approaching, a verb that requires its objects, you can see, to be in the dative case, and thus there you have it. The only kind of city they can approach is the dative city. Third conjugation. Omnium servorum, davo Cornelius fawet. Of all the slaves, here is your genitive, part of a whole, so of them all, Cornelius favors, or you could say gives favor to Dawes. And so I'm going to add the 2 there that's built in. So he favors or gives favor to Dawes. And that, again, is the usage of dawo in the dative case because fawet requires its objects to be so as a special verb. Why does he favor Dawes? Of all the slaves? Quod, because most especially or most greatly, the most, does he trust, another verb requiring a dative object, the overseer, which of course highlighted as the dative in yellow. So because he trusts the overseer the most. The next one, titus, puerique. Again, you can see the que connecting that enclitic, which means it cannot stand on its own. It is attached to another word, Titus and the boys. Please note that when you read these, it's not Titus, the boys, and. It's as though the que is an et in front of the word to which is it attached. So Titus and the boys, occurrent. I always have problem with subject-verb agreement. Let me go ahead and make that plural since we have Titus and boys as plural. They will meet. Now, I say will meet because I saw the E. I asked myself the question, and I saw that it was the third conjugation occurro occurre. So when you see an E as your vowel, and it's a third conjugation verb, and you can tell by looking at the second principal part, short ERE, it's future, will meet, and it takes dative objects, Dad Cornelius, the father Cornelius, at the Arch of Tiberius. Then finally the last one. Cum geta effugit davus vitae eis pepercit. Now, cum is a word that we've seen so far that means with. It is, of course, a preposition, but when, pun intended, it does not have an ablative with it to be its object, and geta is not, geta is nominative, it's going to have the new translation as when. It is a subordinating word, which creates a subordinate clause. Remember that subordinating words are those words you can attach to clauses and make it to where that clause can't stand on its own. So, for example, you say he runs, you could add the words when he runs, since he runs, after he runs, while he runs. All of those words, when, since, while, after, those are words that make it subordinate, and they're subordinating words. And that's what we have here. Cum get effugit. Now, if you look at the principal parts of effugit, effugio, effugite, effugi, that perfect stem of EFF long UG tells me it's not a present. And so it's perfect tense with a perfect ending. E is the it. When Geta ran away, did run away, has run away, Dawis spared his life. Pepercit from Parco Parcere, Peperci Parsurus, is obviously a verb that is special, takes dative objects, and so the word vita, which is life, like your vital signs, is in the dative case. Postquam geta semper davo vilico parebat. Afterwards, or after, geta always obeyed, pareo parere, second conjugation. Do not confuse that with paro parare, to prepare a first conjugation with a long are. But here, parebat, always obeyed, always was obeying, Dawis the overseer, in the dative case because it's the object of the special verb. Geta Corneliis bene servere jam volebat. Geta now was wanting to serve. Servio servire requires a dative object because when you serve someone, you're giving service to them. Do not confuse this verb, please, with servo servare, a first conjugation that means to save, that we have seen before. So, Geta now was wanting to serve the dative Cornelians well, because servire requires its dative object. Nunquam iterum, never again did he harm, has he harmed, nokeo, nokere, nokui, I see the perfect stem, the perfect ending, did he harm the trust again. So never again did he harm their trust. Fiducia, fiduciae is the word for trust or fidelity, I suppose. Nevertheless, okay, so what I would like you to do now is to take a look at these sentences. I would like you to translate them, identify any datives that are around, and then tell me why they are in the dative case. And I'm going to make another recording in which I will go through here and see how you have done. But before I put up that recording, I would like for you to go ahead and give it a shot on your own. You don't have to write them out or anything like that, but please do give a look at them. See if you can figure out them on your own, just so if you'll know if you're confused by vocabulary. Seri, slave, calponi. If it's third conjugation, that's an innkeeper. Noum is glossed at the bottom. Lectum is a bed. Aurelia is the mother, and that is, of course, do, dare, dedidatus, to give. Postquam is after. Sordidum means dirty. Lectum again is bed. And videa videre vidi visus, to see. Cornelius, radario is the coachman. Credit is glossed for you. It's in group 4 principal parts. Itaque, therefore. Am him, Cornelius, and puniwit means to punish. Punio, punire, puniwi. Note the V of the V sucks. Cornelius, servo slave. Dicit, say or speak. Dico, dicere, dixi. Dix would be, of course, the perfect stem, so this is a present stem. Why, cur, mihi is to or for me, or just me if it's the object of a special verb. Parios, glossed, it is from pario parere. Omnes all, servi slave, domino, suo. And let me go ahead and fix this to make it to where it is. There we are, long O. Domino is master. Parent is the same as pares, it means to obey. Here you have Doom is while, Cornelii Calponi. Here it probably doesn't need to be capitalized, and instead of Calponi, which is the innkeeper third or declension, this is Calponi first, which is the inn itself. Of course, approach, Aurelia, husband or man, Dicit, say or speak, Fawio, favor. It's in group 4, principal parts. You can see it up there. Hic means this. It's in the dative case. Calponi is again the in, or, and then again this in the dative case, and Calponi is innkeeper. So see if you can translate them, figure out which words are in the dative case, and I'll make another recording. So good luck, and thank you so much.